You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Lee Atwater. You're probably not old enough to know that name, but I am, and I was thinking about Atwater all weekend. Lee Atwater was a Republican strategist. He worked for Ronald Reagan and the first President George Bush, and for, a dozen years or more, he was the chairman of the Republican National Committee. So I am not a fan of Lee Atwater's, needless to say. But I did appreciate Atwater's bluntness and his honesty in an interview he gave to a political scientist named Alexander Lamas, who was writing a book about racism and American politics. It was an interview that was supposed to remain forever anonymous. It was supposed to be on background, not quoted or attributed to Atwater. But it leaked. Leaks, they're not a new thing. They're a thing that have been going on forever. Anyway, here's what Atwater, the man who ran the GOP for a very long time, the man who helped elect Ronald fucking Reagan, had to say about the Southern strategy, the GOP's appeal to racist white Southerners who abandoned the Democratic Party in droves after the civil rights legislation of the 1960s signed into law by a Democratic president. Atwater. You start out in 1954 by saying N-word, N-word, N-word. Atwater didn't say N-word in the interview. I'm going to say N-word here as I quote him. By 1968, you can't say N-word anymore. That hurts you, backfires. So you start saying stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. You're getting so abstract now in the 80s, you're talking about cutting taxes and all these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and a byproduct of them is that blacks get hurt worse than whites. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying, we want to cut this is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than N-word, N-word. Atwater gave that interview in 1981 when he was working in Reagan's White House, crafting those racist abstractions, winning the votes of white people by advancing economic policies designed to do maximum damage to black people. Now, some of these policies also hurt white people, too. White people suffer when social welfare programs are gutted. White people get more in food stamps than anybody else. But some white people are content to suffer, so long as they're convinced black people are suffering more. Anyway, for 50 years, the GOP dealt in these abstractions, these racist dog whistles, since 1968, since the invention by Richard Nixon of the Southern strategy. And in the process, over the decades, their base became older, whiter, and hatier all along the way. Moderate Republicans, Rockefeller Republicans, never that great to begin with, they're all extinct now. Then along comes Donald Trump. Trump doesn't traffic in abstractions. I don't think Donald Trump is capable of abstract thought. He says and does racist things. And this offended the GOP establishment, not because they're offended by racism or racists, but because Trump wasn't playing by the rules. He wasn't using the code. He wasn't sticking to the abstractions. Saturday Night Live, way back last year, feels like 3 lifetimes ago, nailed it in a sketch shortly before Trump won the primary. Here's Jason Sudeikis as Mitt Romney.
Now, Governor, why have you decided to speak out against Donald Trump?
Well, Jake, for the last 9 months, I've sat down and watched Donald Trump say something every day that was either racist or sexist. And we in the GOP, the party of the great Ronald Reagan, we do not say racist and sexist things. We imply them subtly over decades and decades of policy.
Their problem with Donald Trump, back during the primary, doesn't imply, doesn't use code, doesn't deal in abstractions. And Donald Trump drove that home again this weekend, talking to an all-white crowd at a rally in Alabama. Trump accused those people of disrespecting our great national anthem. Trump called on NFL team owners to fire players who exercise their constitutional right to peacefully protest, and called those people, again, those people, sons of bitches. Those people. Football players, African-American football players, inspired by SF 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who've been taking a knee during our great national anthem to protest police brutality. Sons of bitches, those people, says our president. A quick aside, our great national anthem has a second verse that celebrates the deaths of slaves who were fighting for their freedom in the War of 1812. It's true. Google it. So our national anthem isn't really that great. After we pull down the last Confederate monument, let's repeal and replace our national anthem. Anyway, I was really happy to see so many football players in so many stadiums this weekend take a knee, entire teams, in response to Trump's racist attacks on Sunday. I was proud to see the entire football team at Seattle's own Garfield High School take a knee, and the Seattle Seahawks, proud of you guys for staying in your locker room during the national anthem. It was nice to see so much unity. Even people who disagree with the taking of the knee thing, and I disagree with people who disagree with the taking of the knee thing, supported the pushback against Trump's racist and anti-constitutional, anti-First Amendment demagoguery. But I gotta zoom out for just a second, because this has been going on. We've been talking about this Donald Trump asshole for 2 years, and longer than that, but they're talking about Donald Trump and thinking about Donald Trump. That used to be opt-in. If you didn't watch The Fucking Apprentice, if you didn't follow Trump's bizarre career, you didn't have to think or talk about it much. But now we're all thinking and talking about him all the fucking time. And the journalist Seth Abramson really kind of nailed it this weekend in response to not just Trump's comments about those people taking a knee, disrespecting our great national anthem, not just that newest iteration of Trump's fucking racist, demagogish assholery, but just zoomed out and took a look at what Trump is doing to our psyches as individuals and really our collective national psyche. I'm going to read a little bit of his tweet storm. He wanted people to see the whole thing. I retweeted it. If you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen it. If you didn't, if you missed it, go look up Seth Abramson on Twitter and read this whole thing, because it really fucking captures it. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Have you noticed a change in your mood since January? I mean, a change you can't seem to escape. Anxiety, anger, fear, confusion, doubt. The most ubiquitous man in your nation is trying to poison you daily because it gives him power, and no one is stopping him from doing it. I'm not using hyperbole. You are under attack, a deliberate, unprovoked, systemic, and yes, evil attack, and it's working. We're losing. You think he's attacking North Korea in his tweets? No, he's trying to terrorize you. The NFL? You. Segments of America? No. All of us. Every institution we like or trust, he's undermined. The media, government, unions, hell, even the NFL. Veterans, too, when he feels like it. He's enabled by the GOP, but he is no Republican. He wants to destroy any politics or politician whose world he's not at the center of. He's a malignant narcissist, and only his ambition to spread his toxicity nationwide in whichever way feeds his perverse pathology. If you're a Trump voter, by all means, laugh it up. You'll be caught in wars, recessions, and international collapse like the rest of us. I could go on. I could continue to read Seth's brilliant Twitter rant from this weekend. I would encourage you to go read the rest of it. We have some sex and relationship questions to get to here today. But I just got to say, there is only one way to cure what ails us. We have to confront the GOP about its complicity in racism, stretching back to the 1950s, the 1968, the fucking Southern strategy, Lee Atwater, code, abstractions, dog whistles. And we have to impeach this motherfucker already. That's what we have to do. The only way to save our country is to cut this cancer out of our body politic, and the cancer is Trump. And the cancer is the Southern strategy. Trump is not an aberration. Trump is the culmination of everything the GOP has been saying and doing for a half a fucking century. And the bill has come due. And we are all paying it. And I'm pissed. Also, today, proud. Proud of all the football players. Not a football fan. Don't watch a lot of football games. But proud of all the football players who took a stand by taking a knee this weekend. And we're all going to have to continue to stand up to this and fight it and not succumb to the anxiety, paranoia, rage, and fear that Trump is daily trying to stoke and provoke. So fuck the president, not my president, not your president. Let's talk about sex and relationships, but let's stay in the fight and let's keep taking a stand and, when and where necessary, taking a knee too. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers all fresh, high-quality ingredients and recipes you need to create delicious home-cooked meals. Get your first 3 meals for free by going to blueapron.com/savage. Thanks to Bombfell for supporting the Savage Lovecast. Bombfell is an online personal styling service for men that helps find the right clothes for you. Get $25 off your first purchase at bombfell.com/savage. That's BOMBFELL.com/savage. Today's Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Me Undies. High quality, super comfortable, good looking undies. Get 20% off your first order when you go to meundies.com/savage.
Hey, Dan. I am in my late 20s living on the West Coast of the United States, and I am a cisgendered straight female. My question for you is basically surrounding the sugar baby, sugar daddy lifestyle. My dilemma is that I am a very motivated girl. Like I eventually want to be financially stable, but right now the career path that I'm going towards in the entertainment industry means that, money is tight. I do have a boyfriend that I've recently started dating, but things have gotten very serious very fast, and I would like to pursue something more serious with him. And basically my question is, in the long way around it, is it okay for me to be a sugar baby and decide to not tell my boyfriend? The way I see it is that it's a job. It's something that I'm going to do to make money, and I don't want to stress him out with it. He's the kind of guy, and I don't think I would want to date someone who's okay with their girlfriend being a sugar baby. I know that you've said in the past that, there are some things that you can just keep secret to your boyfriend, that, you don't need to be open and honest about everything. And I want to do this so I can protect him. It's not going to be forever, but is it okay if I don't tell my boyfriend about being a sugar baby? I guess it's important for me to say that if I do decide to sleep with the sugar daddy, I may end up doing that. I may not. But either way, to me, it's a business transaction. I'd just love to know your thoughts on this.
So you want to be a sugar baby and you have a boyfriend, and you could tell him, but you don't want to date someone. You wouldn't want to have a boyfriend who is okay with you being a sugar baby. That's a little bizarre. That's a little hypocritical. I don't quite understand your rationale there, what you're thinking. Tried to call you back, couldn't get you, so I'm just going to have to vamp here. But if I were sitting with you, if we were together, if we were having a drink in a bar, I would ask you to really think about what that says or what that means, or what, from whence this disconnect. You want to do this particular kind of sex work, but you don't want to be with a guy romantically who would be okay with his girlfriend doing this particular kind of sex work. So there's some little part of your brain that is whore shaming you for the whoring that you're contemplating doing. And in the eyes of your beloved, you want to be the kind of person who hasn't and would never do sex work. But you are, if you do this, the kind of person who would do sex work. And presumably you are a good person. Maybe one of the reasons you don't want to be with somebody who would be okay with his girlfriend doing sex work is because you don't think deep down that someone who would do sex work is a good person. You want your boyfriend to think you are a good person. And you kind of are a good, well, maybe you're not so good a person, actually. Maybe you're falling a little short of the good bar, because your boyfriend, if you do this kind of work, I think has a right to know, particularly if it is sexual. Because if you allow him to assume, or you tell him explicitly that this is a sexually exclusive relationship and you are having sex with another guy who may be having sex with other women, that puts your boyfriend at some certain degree of risk, and he has a right to make an informed choice about the degree of sexual risk in this relationship that he's willing to accept. So if you want to be that good person that you know yourself to be, the kind of good person who could do sex work, there's a lot of good people out there who do sex work. We've had a lot of them on this show. Then you have to be honest with your boyfriend. And then what you'll see in his eyes when he looks at you is not someone looking at someone who could never do sex work, but someone looking at someone who is honest about the sex work that they are doing, who is not a deceitful liar. And you don't want to be a deceitful liar. Really, you don't want to be a deceitful liar. You just don't want to be with somebody who doesn't know that they're with a deceitful liar. You want to actually not be a deceitful liar. Yes, I have in the past, and I will in the future say that there are things that people lie to their partners about, that there are lies that you can tell. This isn't really one of them. This is the withholding of information, I think, that a lover, a boyfriend that you're serious about, is entitled to. Crushing debt, entitled to that information before marriage. HIV status, entitled to that information. Your kink cards laid on the table, entitled to that information. a list of everyone you've ever slept with and all the sex acts you performed with that person, your exact number and all the details, not necessarily entitled to all that information. We have, even when we're partnered, a right to some autonomy and a right to some privacy within that relationship. But you have to ask yourself if the things you're being all autonomously private about, if that's a legitimate choice, and whether you're withholding something that the other person needs to know, has a right to know, is entitled to know, so they can make an informed choice about whether they want to be with you or not. So yeah, no, you can't be a good person and hold this back. And you have to find whatever wiring it is in your brain that is cool with this weird, horror-phobic, self-shaming hypocrisy on your part, where you want to do this, but you would never want to be with somebody who was okay with you doing this. What if he finds out you're doing it? What if you wind up with somebody who's absolutely, positively not okay with this at all? And as things like this tend to do, it comes out. He finds out. Then what? Yeah, no. Doing sex work, you want to be with somebody who's down with their girlfriend doing sex work. And if you wouldn't date anybody who would date somebody who would do sex work, don't fucking do sex work.
Hey, Dan. So I have an ex-girlfriend, and we sort of are loosely friends. We reconnected on social media a while ago, and we talk every now and then. But, man, it seems like she's gotten with a new guy before I found someone new. And so now I can't help but feeling jealous and kind of angry. I don't know, angry. It just kind of, I don't know. I have these feelings which are silly and irrational. And I don't like that I have these feelings, but nonetheless I have them. And so now I feel like I don't want to see into her life via social media, with her posting Snapchats with her boyfriend or the pictures on Facebook or this kind of stuff. But is it petty if I just unfollow her on everything, just remove her from all my social media things? I'm not doing it out of hate or really vitriol or anything. I'm just doing it to protect my own sort of, I guess, feelings, because it just makes me feel bad when I see it, and I don't want to feel bad unnecessarily. So it's it has nothing to do with her. On the one hand, I'm happy that she found someone new, but on the other hand, it doesn't make me happy to see it. And I know it's silly and it's jealousy and it's stupid basal emotions, but nonetheless, I have those emotions and I can't shake them. So I was wondering whether or not you thought I was just being petty and should just use the situation as a way to grow stronger and just get over it, or if it's reasonable to unfriend and get rid of someone all over social media. And if so, should I first reach out to her and tell her that I'm going to do it and why, or just do it?
You're so articulate and you're so thoughtful about this. You really kind of don't need my help. I think you know what to do. Send her a note, say, I'm really happy that you found somebody else, but for now, just to protect my feelings, I don't still have feelings for you, but you're with somebody new and it dredges up old memories and makes me feel a little melancholy. I'm not with anybody else yet, and just, I want you to be happy, but having your happiness live streamed into my brain right now is just a little painful. It's just a little awkward. So for now, I will mute you where I can mute you, and I'm going to unfollow you where I need to unfollow you. But I still think of you as a friend. I still like you, and I'm really happy for you. But I need to back off a little bit, have some distance while I work on my own happiness and finding someone for myself. And I just scripted that all for you. You can transcribe that and read that out, or you can just speak from the heart. You spoke so well about this problem and your feelings of ambiguity, and your impulse to say something first is absolutely, positively the right impulse. If your ex and you have become friendly, and this is the general you, not you specifically caller, if you become friends with your ex and reconnected with your ex, and you're just chit-chatting a little bit on social media, and they get somebody new and they're in the besotted phase and every picture is them with their new person, if you suddenly unfollow, if you just cut them off, they may read into that anger, resentment, a desire to get back together. Maybe all the contact up to this point when they found someone new was just you trying to weasel your way back into their pants. And if that's not true, it's just touching you in a sore spot. Don't just disappear. Say something first. Say, hey, happy for you. Can't have your happiness live streamed into my head right now. So reach out every once in a while. Drop me an email. I'll drop you an email. We can stay in touch, but not via Instagram, not via Facebook, not via Twitter, just for the time being. Anybody who heard you say that and reacted negatively or blew up at you or just furious because you deprived them of one follower on Instagram is no ex you want to be friends with going forward anyway. You want to look good in your underwear and be comfortable, right? But that perfect balance between looking good and being comfy, that's hard to find. You don't have to sacrifice style or comfort, though. Check out MeUndies.com and find the best pair of underwear in the world just right for you. MeUndies will be the most comfortable pair of underwear you will own, made from sustainably sourced, naturally soft fabric that is 3 times softer than cotton. Ultimate feel-good undies for you when you want to feel naked, not be naked. For the fellas, MeUndies diamond-seamed pouch cradles your jewels and gives your stuff the support it needs without feeling too tight. And ladies love the soft, eco-friendly fabric, right, Nancy? Nancy is nodding her head enthusiastically. She got herself a monthly subscription. They send her new underpants every month, and she gives out a little girly squeal when they arrive. Or so I am told. Nancy and I don't actually live together, so I'm not there when her packages come, but they come. Right now, MeUndies has an exclusive offer just for my listeners. Get 20% off your first pair and free shipping. And MeUndies is so sure you will love their underwear, they even offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. You order a pair, and if you don't love your first pair, get a full refund. It's so worth a try. 20% off, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Get on it, people, and it helps us here at the Lovecast if you do. So, to get your 20% off, free shipping, and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, and the best and softest underwear you will ever own, and support the Lovecast, go to MeUndies.com/savage. That's MeUndies.com/savage. This is a limited time offer. Start wearing the best underwear of your life. Go to MeUndies.com/savage right now.
Hi, Dan. I have got a question. Okay, so my wife and I, we've been married about 7 years. We have 2 daughters, a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old. We had decided that we were not going to raise our children in any sort of religious tradition. Both of us came out of really toxic situations, and we wanted there to be a hard line there. I talked to my parents about this close to 3 years ago, just as my daughter was about to be born, that this is our hard line, and we respect that you have your religious beliefs, but please do not put those on my children. Don't teach them about Jesus. Don't read them Bible stories. Don't take them to church without talking to us first and making sure that we're okay with whatever the instruction is. So they've always been very respectful of it. They've always, from that point on, it was never a fight. Shockingly, it was never a fight. But a couple weeks ago, my oldest daughter, the 2.5-year-old, had spent the night over at their house and came back the next day, and as we were getting ready to eat dinner, stopped us and said, "We have to say prayers first. We have to say prayers first." And I looked at her and I said, "What are you talking about? Where did you learn that?" And she got really upset and said, "Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell." I said, "Okay, well, I'm your dad. You can tell me. You can tell your mom anything. You can always trust us." And so she did finally tell that my mother has been teaching her about Jesus, about all of this shit, and has been telling her not to tell us. I've talked to my dad, who was not aware of this either. I don't really know what to do. I love my parents. We rely on them a lot for help with our kids, with babysitting, and they live just around the corner from us, and it's been a big help. But this is just unacceptable. It's unfucking acceptable to me to have my trust broken and my parenting undermined like that. How do I approach my mom on this? How do I do this?
It would be one thing if your daughter picked up the grace habit because they were at your mom and dad so often for all that free childcare, which has some value to you and your wife, and your parents at their house, their rules, they said grace before meals, and your kids were exposed to your parents' religious practice. That would be one thing, and I think that's a legitimate thing. You can't tell your parents not to say grace before meals in their own house, even when your kids are there. You can't prevent your kids from being exposed to other people's religious practices. That's just a fact of life. The issue here, though, is teaching your daughter about this Jesus person and then swearing her to secrecy, asking your daughter, your 2.5-year-old daughter, to lie to her parents and hide things from her parents. That is not a lesson that any adult in a small child's life should impart to that child. And that is unacceptable. I think that's how you approach this with your mother. It is fine that you believe in Jesus. It is fine that my kid knows that her grandparents are religious people. If you want to say grace in front of them, that is fine. It is not fine to indoctrinate my child. It is not fine to Bible lesson my kid. It is not fine to swear this kid to secrecy and introduce conflict and stress. Your kid was really worried about revealing this to you, sharing this with you, breaking trust with grandma. And you guys have to be in league, you and your mother, and your father and your wife. You have to be in league. You have to be the adults in your life that your kids can trust and turn to, not the adults in your kids' life that are pulling them in different directions, swearing them to secrecy, and on and on. You could also take the tack of telling mom that you will go to war with her on this Jesus thing. If she's going to teach your kid about Jesus, you're going to unteach your kid about Jesus. If she's going to do Bible lessons, you're going to do un-Bible lessons and complicate the narrative. But that's not cool. And that's not fair to your kid. And there has to be fucking taunt. So this ends, or you guys are going to have to make new childcare arrangements. This ends, or you say to your mother, you're going to see a lot less of your grandchildren and you won't be able to see them unsupervised. So make your pick. What's more important to you, having these kids in your life and living your faith as an example to them? Maybe that'll inspire them in adulthood to adopt your faith, or creating conflict and stress in our family that prevents you from being in their lives at all. Tell your mother not to poison the well, that her relationship with these kids is more important than your daughter's 2.5, her relationship with your mother's imaginary sky friend, Jesus. Sounds like you have an ally in your dad, and that's good. Sounds like you have an ally in your wife, and that's good. Sounds like, though, you may have to make alternate childcare arrangements, at least in the short term, for this to break through your mother's thick head. Thanks to Bombfell for supporting the Savage Lovecast. Bombfell is an online personal styling service for men that helps find the right clothes for you. I hate going shopping myself, so I love that Bombfell does all the shopping work for me. After completing a simple questionnaire, you will be matched one-on-one with a dedicated personal stylist who handpicks every piece. Your stylist will email you his or her selections, after which you'll have 48 hours to make any changes or even cancel altogether. You are in total control. When you sign up, you pay $0 because there's no fees to work with them. It's the only styling service that does not charge a styling fee or a subscription fee. And you only pay for the clothes you keep. Bombfell is the only service that can make this claim. It's completely flexible. You can receive clothes every 1, 2, or 3 months, and you can pause or cancel at any time. Clothing is shipped straight to your door. No need to spend hours shopping at the store. When I signed up, I was skeptical because my clothing taste is pretty basic. My husband is the clothes horse in the family. He likes the fancy stuff. I like simple things, t-shirts, hoodies, and don't want no trouble. But they sent me a great selection of basic, good-looking clothes, and I found a few things that appealed to me. It's really easy, and it's a fun way to bulk up your wardrobe, which Terry is always telling me I need to do. We have a special offer just for listeners of this show. For $25 off your first purchase, go to bombfell.com/savage. Support the Lovecast by taking advantage of that offer. That's bombfell.com/savage. Once again, that's bombfell.com/savage for $25 off your first purchase.
Hi, Dan. I'm a mid-30s woman calling from Canada. Yesterday, my husband was called in to a meeting at work, and it became apparent that he's been surfing porn at work while on the company dime. He works for a school, a college, and he admitted to it, and he told me about this, and I'm not really sure how to process this information. Now, I like to think of myself as a pretty sex positive and porn positive person. I know he watches porn. We both do, and that's fine. And we've been married for 7 years, and we do have a young child. And I know our sex life took for a bit of a turn when she was born. But I sort of thought things were getting better. I know his porn consumption became a little, increased after that happened, but I didn't think it was like this. So now he is suspended with pay, and we're waiting on disciplinary action. And one of the things that could potentially happen is that he could lose his job. And I'm not really sure what to do if he loses his job over watching porn at work. What besides being really angry, I'm not sure what to say to him. I'm not sure how to move through this. This is completely new territory for me. In your years of experience, have you ever heard of something like this? What typically happens? What should I do? Help.
It's a little late for this, a little like closing the barn door after the cows got out, but you might want to show your husband his phone and the internet browser on his phone and the great wide world of pornography that is available to him on his phone, so he doesn't have to use his work computer when he is horny and in the office and needing to, hopefully in the privacy of his office or the bathroom, wherever it is he was doing this, rub one out for sanity's sake. We had a little debate here in Savage Love HQ with the tech-savvy at-risk youth about what's really upsetting you here more, that your husband's looking at porn? Are you angry at your husband and the porn consumption that put his job at risk? Or are you angry at his employer for being such a pornphobic, sexphobic nut that he may lose his job over this, over looking at a little pornography on his computer at work, which of course people shouldn't do, and it can get people in trouble, but for fuck's sake. Was he looking at it in full view of anyone? Was he looking at it to such an extent that he wasn't getting any other work done? Are there other people in the office who are on Etsy all day long and they're not getting in trouble, but he looked at boobies, so that's a problem? Is it sex phobia and porn phobia in the workplace on behalf of his employers that's pissing you off, as was the opinion of a couple of the tech-savvy at-risk youth? Or are you mad at your husband for being so stupid as to put his job at risk by looking at a little porn? Or are you mad at both? Maybe you should be mad at both. Maybe it was foolish and risky on your husband's part, and maybe it's porn and sex phobic on his employer's part. What your husband is probably going to have to do to save his job is fall on the sex addiction sword. If you're a regular listener, you know I don't put much stock in the sex addiction model or theory, which seems to be mostly pushed by religious groups and organizations to pathologize normal, healthy libido and desire. Yes, people can look at too much porn. People can look at or eat or do too much of anything. Porn isn't the problem. Compulsion can be. Porn is no likelier to induce. There are studies no likelier to induce compulsive behavior or consumption than a whole lot of other things, right? Porn ain't heroin. But a lot of people out there who, when they get caught with their hands in the nookie jar, when they get caught committing adultery, when they get caught being Tiger Woods or that Duggar kid whose first name I can't remember, who was chasing all those porn stars, or they get caught consuming a lot of pornography, will claim that they are a victim of sex addiction, a victim of porn addiction, and get their ass into therapy and plea helpless in the face of this evil monster of pornography. Please blame pornography. Please don't blame me, and let me come back to work and put some safeguards on my computer that will prevent me because I'm helpless in the face of access to pornography. Da, 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 da. Your husband could do that, and that may engender sympathy from his employers or the college that he works at, if indeed it's porn phobia at work there and sex phobia at work there, because that is a posture prone, grabbing ankles, that people who hate and fear porn and hate and fear sex find a great deal of appeal in. It appeals to them. It appeals to that porn is a monster impulse in employers, in spouses, in church communities, and on and on and on. I'm sorry that you're in this position. I'm sorry your husband, unlike me, works somewhere that you can get busted for looking at a little pornography, but here you are. And even if falling on the sex addiction, porn addiction sword doesn't save his job at this place, he's probably going to want to fall on that sword anyway and get a little sex addiction counseling or therapy, because that'll aid him in landing his subsequent position someplace else. Because when he applies for a new job, particularly in academia, and he has to talk about why he lost his previous job, he can then point to the treatment he got in the wake of losing that job, and that he's better now, all better now. He doesn't have to add that his wife has acquainted him with the web browser on his phone as well. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They're certainly the #1 recipe and fresh delivery service at our house. They make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone, even hopeless in the kitchen people like me. And Blue Apron achieves this by supporting a more sustainable food system, setting the highest standards for ingredients, and building a community of home chefs. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-proportioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Actually, that should read for you to make delicious home-cooked meals, because if I can make delicious home-cooked meals using Blue Apron, anybody can. Choose from a variety of new recipes each week or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you will never get bored, and you can customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. And because Blue Apron ships the exact amount of each ingredient required for a recipe, they're reducing food waste. For a limited time, Blue Apron will be delivering recipes inspired by the winning dishes on Master Chef. Tune into Master Chef on Fox every Wednesday at 8, 7 Central, and visit Blue Apron every Thursday to see and select winning recipes to cook in your own home. Visit blueapron.com/savage to get your first 3 meals for free. Support the Lovecast. Get some free chow. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Hi, Dan. I'm a newly married female in my late 20s, and I have a question regarding how my husband and I should handle a pretty humiliating moment of me being sexually harassed at a rehearsal dinner. We have a good relationship with this uncle and his wife. They're on my husband's side of the family. They live about an hour away from us, and nothing like this has ever happened before. I was sitting with my sisters and my brother-in-law when I noticed my husband go blank in the face, and then noticed that this uncle was making crude gestures behind my back. Everyone at the table was at a loss of what to do. So eventually, after, just not being able to put up with it, I got up and just switched to a new table across the room. In the process of me standing up, he grabbed my ass. I spent the rest of the dinner upset and shocked, and then cried about it later that night, and then again on the morning of my wedding. I felt the need to explain to my siblings, obviously this has never happened to me before, because otherwise we wouldn't have a relationship with this creep. This uncle is over 75, was very drunk, and we haven't spoken since. I spent my wedding keeping an eye on him because I couldn't bear to be within 5 feet of him. Obviously, I don't think I can see this man ever again. Being sexually harassed isn't at all new to me, but this incident was public, humiliating, and ruined a night that I was already so worried about. It also put a huge damper for both of us on our wedding day. I don't know what to do about this. His wife was sitting right next to him while this was happening, and when it comes to my husband's family, we spend more time with them than anyone else. It's a good relationship that I've always really enjoyed, and I don't know what to do. I'm just so sick and disappointed in both of them, and I just don't know if I can ever forgive them for ruining something that was so important to both of us. This just fucking sucks, so help.
Well, first, congratulations on your wedding. I hope you and your husband are very happy. You say you're never going to speak to your uncle again, your uncle-in-law, the creep who grabbed your ass at your rehearsal dinner. And I think you should speak to him again. I think you should go to him and in front of his wife, your aunt, who seems to have been complicit or at least passive in the face of this shit, demand an apology. Tell him how it made you feel. Ask him if he remembers what he did. He's 75 years old and he got, sounds like, pretty fucking hammered at your rehearsal dinner. Even if, and I don't want to be ageist, but even if at 75 he's fully in charge of his faculties and he's not losing touch or losing impulse control, apparently with enough alcohol in him, he can disinhibit in a way that can ruin a young woman's rehearsal dinner and make her very upset and feel insecure and paranoid on her wedding day, because there he is. You could have disinvited him to the wedding, actually, in the wake of this and asked him not to come so you didn't have to worry about him the whole time, not to blame the victim. But kind of soured your wedding day a little bit, because instead of just enjoying the day and losing yourself in the love and support and attention of your family, you had to kind of keep an eye on him and where he was and make sure you were always on the other side of the room, and you had people running interference. That can't have been a welcome distraction on your wedding day. So go to Uncle Asshole and confront him and demand an apology. Ask him if he remembers what he did, because you remember it and other people saw it and they remember it. And he felt entitled to reach out and grab your ass in front of your then fiance, now husband, and humiliate you sexually by acting like a lewd jerk right behind you, and then demand an apology. And if he doesn't remember doing it, encourage him never to touch alcohol again and demand an apology anyway. He's still responsible for his actions, even if he was hammered. And then look him in the eye. And if you believe that the apology is sincere, if he's mortified by what he did, if it's news to him that this went down, which I highly doubt, but maybe he's hoping it wasn't as bad as he thinks it was, and maybe it wasn't as upsetting to you as, he could be rationalizing this whole thing to himself. But if you look him in the eye and he's truly mortified by his actions and hopefully grateful to have this opportunity because he raised the subject to apologize to you sincerely. Maybe he can still have a place in your life. If he shrugs it off, if he acts like it's no big fucking deal, if he acts like you're the one with the problem, then he doesn't get to have a place in your life, and neither does his wife. Don't see them anymore. Cut them out, root, asshole, and branch.
Hi, Dan, Nancy, and the tech-savvy at-risk youth. I have a question about how to get my partner to help me have orgasms again. I am a genderqueer possessor of a vagina, and he is a cis dude. Sex used to be really easy. I was one of the very lucky few who was able to orgasm through penetrative sex, but a year or so ago, I had a total hysterectomy, and since then, things have changed. It takes a lot longer to get me going, a lot longer to keep me going, and to compound all of this, he is on the autism spectrum and is frankly awful about talking about anything, but also sex. And so whenever I try to ask him things like, well, what would turn him on or what his kinks would possibly be, he has always historically gone monosyllabic. He starts blushing. Same goes if I try to tell him about my kinks. So last time we had sex, I told him that we needed to try some foreplay before getting going, which then ended up in me getting fingered for about 10 seconds before he just decided to shove it in. He doesn't seem to understand when I tell him that it hurts or that he needs to use some lube or literally anything because he, I guess, panics so much that he just doesn't hear it. We have been together for a decade. We have a kid. We don't have any other issues besides this, really. We are similar in politics and in societal views and everything like that. And I don't want to have to leave him, but this is so bad, and it is just getting worse, like, as time progresses. I don't know what to do.
If he has a hard time talking with you, email with him. Maybe it'll be easier for him to have a conversation over email. If the issue is you need a lot more foreplay and more creative foreplay, and he doesn't know what foreplay is exactly, you'll have to take the lead. And I think the workaround here is to tell him that you decide when the penetration shall commence, so that he isn't going, well, I've had my fingers in her for 10 seconds. Now I can go for it. I have done my foreplay due diligence. It needs to be up to you. You need to be the one who determines when there has been enough foreplay for you guys to pivot to PIV, to vaginal penetration, to intercourse. So just tell him that. You welcome the presence of his dick while you guys are rolling around and engaged in foreplay. And foreplay is a two-way street. You will enact acts of foreplay upon his body as well. But the moment that you move to PIV sex, to penetrative sex, you will determine when that moment comes. Instead of him putting his dick in you, instead of him shoving his dick in you, you will decide when you sink your pussy down on his dick. Tell him that. Take responsibility for initiating the PIV off his shoulders. Maybe he would welcome being relieved of having to make that judgment call. You decide. And incorporate toys and incorporate whatever else that you need to get there. Perhaps the standard that you should set is you have your first orgasm before you guys have penetrative sex, using fingers or toys or fantasy play or whatever else it is that you need that works for you. Roll it all out. And if he has a hard time because he shuts down having that conversation face to face, have it sitting side by side, looking at opposite directions, or have it via email.
Hey, Dan, I'm just calling in response to the caller on episode 569, the dad that had his daughter actually find some dick pics on his phone. Just wanted to throw it out there. There's actually a couple of really great free apps that allow you to kind of lock up pictures that are not appropriate for kids or that you want to keep private on your phone. One that is really great is called Photo Vault, and it's just an extra layer of password protection so that somebody can't accidentally stumble into photos that you don't want them to.
Hi, I'm calling in response to episode 569 with the girl with the asshole boyfriend who raped her in the middle of the night. As a survivor myself, Dan pretty much hit it on the head, DTMFA, but there's actually a name for this when your body knows more than you do. It's called dyspareunia, and if you are having pain during intercourse or sometimes your body knows before you do that there's something wrong. So if your body is telling you to get the fuck away from this asshole, then it probably knows what it's doing.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling to the lady that was calling about hickeys, and I just wanted to point out, yes, there's a ton of people that enjoy getting hickeys, and I'm definitely part of that community. Turns me on, gets me wet. I absolutely love it. But I also wanted to point out that the adult population is probably a lot better and a little more motivated to be covering it up with makeup, whereas high school kids either don't know how or don't care, like you said. I know if I have a long work week, I'm definitely covering it up, before I go to work. And if I'm off that week, then I just let it ride.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. Hump, my little porn festival, is in Denver this weekend. Then it heads to Spokane, Brooklyn, Minneapolis, Burlington, Portland, Maine, Missoula, and New Orleans. For info on tickets, go to humpfilmfest.com. And tickets are on sale for Hump Film Fest, the new Hump Film Fest in Seattle and Portland, also for sale at humpfilmfest.com. I want to thank everybody who came out to the sold-out live show in San Francisco last week, and I want to let everybody in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Madison, Wisconsin, and Royal Oak near Detroit, Michigan know that I am coming to your town October 6th, Minneapolis, October 7th, Madison, Wisconsin, October 8th, Royal Oak, Michigan, Savage Love Live. For tickets to those shows, you can get links at facebook.com/Dan Savage. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Eli J. Finkel on Twitter at Eli J. Finkel. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. And we'll all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thanks.